Howdy everyone, Matt here. I got a question for you. Do you think we should tie reimbursement with our outcomes? Meaning the better that we do with people, the more we get paid. Let's talk about it. All right, everyone, first and foremost, let me introduce myself. My name is Matt. I am Matt the PT, coming at you with another video on another topic of something in the physical therapy world. This one, it's actually an old discussion. I remember having it several years ago. It seemed to have come up here recently, and I thought I would talk about it. And that is, should we have our reimbursement tied to our outcomes? Meaning the better that we do with people, the more that we can potentially make. And this came up over 10 years ago. I remember this was a discussion, and I did not feel like it was a good idea. I did not feel like it was something that we should do, and I will talk about that. Of course, I want to hear your thoughts, opinions, and beliefs about this, all down in the comments. Part of why I don't believe this, and I'll start with this example. You may or may not remember, years ago, we had these things called G codes with Medicare. And if you are not familiar with that, Medicare rolled out this program, and that when somebody came in, we had to determine their functional limitation. So it was all the way from a 0 to a 100% limitation. And so day one, you came up with where they are now. And then you had the goal, so where you can get them to. And every 30 days or 10 visits, you would have to reevaluate them. Now, you could not bill a reeval, but you had to perform a reevaluation of it and to come up with a where they are currently. And I'm going to tell you that this was a big failure from what I understand, that it took too much time and it cost too much money, especially because, and I'll be honest with this, with the company I was when this was going on, there would be so often that the Medicare person with our company would be calling people going, hey, you left off a G code. You need to put this G code on here. People were confused on how to use them properly or what to do. And it was a big headache. And overall, like I said, it cost more time and money than what they were worth, and they were scrapped. And like an issue that would come up is really where you could believe that you could get somebody to. So, I mean, say if you have like a teenager that came in, and if you're going to use this scale, you know, somebody has a sprained ankle. Okay, I can get them to a 0% functional limitation, which was that person could probably get back to, which would be really simple to do. But if somebody is older, has a lot of comorbidities or other things, well, I probably can't get them to a 0%, and I probably can't get them to under 20, probably around the 20 to 40. But what comes up if on a reevaluation, they fall back into that 20 to 40? And we were explained to, like, well, you know, you can believe that, you know, you could be on the lower end of that. So somebody could come in and you do evaluate them and they're like at 39% of a limitation, but you believe you can probably get them around to 25% of a limitation. So you put them in there. So just all this stuff, it was just a massive headache. And I am so glad they got rid of them. But like I said, this kind of gives some evidence that this would not be a good idea. Getting into this first aspect of it, I think why it's not a good idea is that there are too many factors outside of our control to really warrant that. I mean, think of it. We got winter coming up. Cold and flu season's right around the corner. You have patients coming in, they could be doing very well, and then all of a sudden they're sick. They're out for a week or two, or maybe they're hospitalized with an illness. Again, that can set them back in their rehab, and that can then affect the amount of, you know, what you're getting paid. Because we got to keep the lights on when you're running clinics. And there's other things. Think of like the social determinants of health. We talk about those so much and how they can really affect patients. And that if, you know, you can have two people coming in with the same condition, but those social determinants of health are different. One person has housing and food security. The other one doesn't. One has reliable transportation. The other one doesn't. One of them has a very good social support. Another one doesn't. So one of them could do very, very well, and the other one may not. What about people with like cognitive disorders and things like that? I had a gentleman years ago. He was a pretty young guy who developed Alzheimer's, and he didn't really understand exactly why he was coming to therapy. Super nice guy to talk to. His spouse was so nice to talk to. Very nice, but he was coming for back pain. And he wasn't getting better because, as you know, a lot of that goes on stuff at home. And he didn't really understand why I have to do these other things at home. And it made it very, very challenging for him to work with. Additionally, think about in cases where, we get that rare case where somebody who just doesn't want to get better. Maybe they're getting some sort of secondary gain, and your reimbursement of what you get paid for the effort that you get put in, it's like, hey, I'm doing all this stuff for this person, but they're not wanting to get better for something. So that can then affect you. And so I think that's one big component of it as well. Additionally, like comorbidities, like that kind of goes over to the G codes. All those comorbidities were a factor into things. But if you have somebody that has a lot of other comorbidities and complexities and stuff like that, it can be harder to achieve a good outcome. That could, again, and not saying that anything bad is about it and that you don't want to see those people, but it can make it hard. And I think that leads to the other thing. Clinics may not want to see these very complex patients or people that have these things that are very, very challenging, because they know I'm going to do all of this work and effort and stuff with, somebody who has a chronic disorder or very complex disorder, and their chances of really showing a big improvement are going to be pretty low, because we do have our clinical judgment of what we do. Because again, to rehab, a teenager with an ankle sprain to get them fully back to playing sport is really good. Take somebody who is in their 70s with a knee replacement, COPD, and a history of cancer, high blood pressure, diabetes, lives on their own, this, some cognitive disorder. It's much harder. Like, where are you going to get them? So it could turn into these smaller clinics are saying, we can't afford to see patients like this. We can't afford, because we won't make enough income to pay our therapists to keep our lights on. And it can end up with the therapists there are like, well, you're getting overwhelmed with a high volume of patients just because you're not getting paid enough to pay for everything in the clinic. So, that's going to be a very, very hard thing. If you think this outcome stuff for reimbursement is wild, hit that thumbs up button and subscribe to the channel. Back to the video. I also think that insurance companies would not even work with us very well on that. They'd probably throw some trick in there too. I really have that it would be like, oh, we'll tie it to your outcomes, but then turn right around and say, well, we're going to put visit limitations in there, to say like, oh, back pain, you get, 12 visits. This was always the most ridiculous thing. You take somebody who's had their whole lumbar spine fused, who's been inactive for a number of years, has, very debilitating back pain, very low function. And it's like, okay, you get 8 visits to resolve them. That's a lot. There's a lot that goes on, not only the exercise and movement and just getting them there, but just education and empowering them and getting them over it. That can take a long period of time. And an insurance company could easily step in and go, no. We want to have these outcome measurement, these things of saying, we're going to tie your reimbursement to outcome, but we're not going to give you the adequate tools to achieve all of those outcomes, just to undercut. I think that would probably be one of the biggest little sneaks they'd put in there. And another thing that you have to put it out there. It's something that is very negative, but it's there, and is that it could increase the chance of fraud. And I'm not saying therapists are bad people. I'm not saying that they do any of that maliciously, just to meaningfully do the wrong thing. Because I rarely have ever met a therapist who does the wrong thing. And I cannot say never, because statistically, if there's one, then you cannot say none. But that we're not going to do the wrong thing. But when you're put in a situation to say this, that your reimbursement, your job, the way that you make money to pay your bills, to keep a roof over your head, to do stuff with your family, to take care of you, to do all that stuff, is tied to how well patients do. And I'm not saying that they're going to lie on the front end. I mean, on the back end to say, oh, look at these people are doing all these amazing, crazy things here. I think it's more going to be on the front end, that if a patient comes in and they're going to say, we'll make this person look a little bit worse. If we make this person a little bit worse, then when they make that very marginal increase, it looks better. And then the reimbursement can be better. And then that can just be just this whole can of worms to start out. And I understand it's so easy to say, I would never do that. I would never do that kind of thing. No, I would do it. We don't know until we get in that situation. And there's countless, examples of situations like that happening all over the place, that something like that comes up and you get put into a hard spot. And, many of you may have dealt with that with some manager, director, somebody has come to you with something that you felt was a little questionable, and it put you in a weird spot, and you just did not know how to proceed with that. But I would say that is something that could arise from this, and that we don't want that. We do not want to have a black eye on our profession going forward with any of these things. With all that being said, I don't believe it's a good idea. I don't think we should do that. It's just too much that we really can't factor in. And I think that an insurance company would make it sound so great and wonderful, but then twist it to benefit them and kind of leave us in this very awkward, weird position as well. I mean, as well as I do, those complex patients, those patients that have so much going on, you can work so incredibly hard for them, and they may get better. They may not. They may make a very marginal improvement, but they may not. There's so much that goes in, and that sometimes with these complex patients, we have to stack these little things over a long period of time. But then again, insurance company may not want to work with us on that. May say like, nah, we're not going to be doing it to help you out, to allow you to do that over time, because it's going to cost us more money. We want to keep making those profits, and we really don't care about those things. I don't think we should do it. Now, is that this, am I trying to give the solution for with the reimbursement thing? No, but there's probably some other stuff out there. We can talk about that down the line. Of course, like I said, I want to know your thoughts, opinions, and beliefs. Please share that down in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, hit that thumbs up button. Subscribe to the channel. It doesn't cost you a copay or anything like that. And until next time, take care of yourself. Take care of your patients. I'll see you then.